Hallelujah. Free Karen Reed. Hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the fourth video of the Brit Happens channel. So glad to see everybody. Nikki, our faithful leader of the mods. Thank you for being here with your whip ready. So it's a Sunday. It's the first Sunday, I think, of 2025. And we have some goals for this year, some big time goals. Obviously, we want to see justice where we've been calling out injustice. And we're going to have a whole lot of fun calling it out. We've got a savage streak in here. So today, very, very special guest. I'm very, very excited to bring her in. She is a victims advocate in Massachusetts. She has done a lot of great work for the family of Enrique Delgado Garcia. She has done a whole lot for the family of Just en Route. She has been there with Bells for Karen Reed and all the buck wild stuff going on surrounding that. She's just been there. She is a hero and a hoss and a babe and a half. So before I continue to babble any further, please, please, please give a super warm welcome in the chat for Beatriz.
Hey, how are you?
I don't have a super cool soundboard yet, so I'm just going to be the soundboard. So whoopie-doopie. So glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, lovely. So tell me a little bit about how you kind of became a victims advocate. What landed you there in Massachusetts in victims advocacy?
So it all started obviously with Karen Reed. I watched the whole trial. I would stream it on YouTube all day long, and in the evenings recap with the law tubers and the YouTubers and
the Twitter
creators. Yes, exactly. So just kind of, I got to see the commentary behind after watching it all day long. So I found it like, I could really relate to all the law tubers and YouTubers going over the case in the evenings, recapping the day's testimony. And I just became hooked because I think as the weeks went on, it was crazy to think what was happening to Karen Reed and what she was facing and everything around, the FBI investigation, inverted Sally Port videos, all the stuff. So I just became like hooked on it. And I think as the trial went on, it definitely, I started to feel more and more like Karen Reed could be any of us. And I was trying to think of ways that I could, give back and help out. And I was hearing about the standouts, but I really didn't have anyone to go to standouts with. So I was kind of a little afraid. I wasn't sure what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
But one day I just decided, like, I'm just going to make a homemade sign and just show up. I knew that I would have something in common with every single person there.
Oh, absolutely.
And I knew that I would be able to, talk to anybody about, I knew everybody there was passionate about Karen's innocence. So I knew that I would have at least that in common. So I just showed up, and that day I met Just en Route's sister, Jen. She was amazing. She told me about her brother.
We love her.
Yes. And then, I instantly connected with her. That same day, Karen Reed, Nathan Reed, Mr. Reed, Kelly Reed shows up at the standouts to greet us all. And at that same time, Christina Rex from Channel 4 was there, and she just came up to me with a microphone and was like, "Can I interview you?" And I was like, "You know what? I am not typically a public speaker. Like, it's not out of my comfort zone." And I was just so sure of what I was saying that I actually held my own and answered all her questions. And um, that was like my first day at a standout, was
Sure.
all this stuff. And I left there feeling so good. I met so many amazing people, and it was just it was like, I don't want to say addicting, because I think that's not the right word, but like, I just felt so good giving back, and I just
Sure.
kept showing up to other standouts and just kind of continued. I go to the one in Dedham. It's about an hour away from me, but the people that I have met are amazing, and that's the thing about all these, the justice for all the victims behind me, is that I feel like I can connect with I have a connection with each of all in every single story.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
It's a community where, there's something from every single one of those cases that links them arm in arm with one another. And this community for justice has been something really cool to be a part of, even for me outside of Massachusetts. Oh, speaking of, we have an appearance from our mutual friend. This is his first time in a Brit Happens Savage Patch chat. Welcome, DJ. We're
Hi,
so glad to
DJ.
see you. Guess who else is here? We got Jen.
Hey, Jen.
Jen,
Love you,
we're
girl.
so glad you're here, my love. Oh my God. Jen has graced us with her presence, and so has Sarah in Shock and Horror.
Oh, hey, Sarah.
I'm in shock that you came. We're so glad that you're here. So, well, that's insane, though, that your very first day that you kind of took a leap of faith and stepped out into the community, you were asked to speak about it. I mean,
Yes.
and what a way to just kind of be more of a conduit and say, you know what? I'm not here today about me. It's about what's going on here. So what I obviously haven't seen that interview. Do you, if you can remember, because I'm sure I would be like, as Nurse Kim would say, blacked out. I wouldn't remember the better half of it. Do you remember the substance of that interview?
So she asked me a lot of questions. Not all of it made the cutting room floor, as they say. But basically, I think I spoke about. She wanted me to explain what I meant by Karen Reed could be any of us. So she wanted clarification on that, because she hears a lot about a lot of people saying, and Karen Reed can be any of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of just explained, like, it could be somebody, and it could be our daughters, it could be our friends, like, and I kind of just mentioned that's what that statement meant to me, that this could happen to anyone, any of our loved ones, and it's just, definitely that, yeah, I mean, just basically explaining that it can be any of us.
A convenient outsider, right? Someone who doesn't have those powerful ties to law enforcement or to the influential families in Canton or anywhere else for that matter, who doesn't have that reach of the arm, could absolutely at any time become a target of a falsehood in order to be frank, protect somebody else from a crime that they committed. It absolutely could happen to any one of us. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, very special guest in here right now as well in the chat. If you do not know Coral, and if you do not follow her, Coral is in Massachusetts as well. She is a big true crime creator. She did a lot of the Lord's work in the Wade Wilson case. She's been covering Karen Reed, and she is just an amazing individual, very entertaining to watch, by the way. I mean, this girl's got a sense of humor like nobody else. So, chat, make sure that you guys go and give Coral a sub on her page, Coral and Dexter. Oh, man. So, speaking of Karen Reed, there is some shit hitting the fan right now. And there is a common thread with it. So Hank Brennan is essentially going buck wild. Am I right? Going for all of the expert witnesses for the defense. You see what he's been doing with Richard Green.
Yeah.
Most recently, he's going after Richard Green, trying to keep him from testifying about the 2:27 a.m. Google search, which is insane to me, considering that Richard Green appears to be more qualified than Whiffen or Hyde, at least in my opinion. He seems to have more experience. Now, was he the most confident witness that I've ever seen on a stand? Perhaps not. But as far as his qualifications, he's 100% able to testify on this matter. And then he's going after Dr. Russell. In 2 days, we'll have Daubert Part 2 of the second kind of evidentiary hearings, just to see whether she can testify. I mean, what are your initial thoughts on all that?
So one side note on this, something to keep in mind. So remember when the Vanity Fair article came out, they also got an expert who also confirmed that the 227 Google search did happen. So that was even recently.
That was Dr. Umit Karabiak of Purdue University.
Yep. So we already know that recently somebody else has looked into this Google search and it was valid. So it's insane that we're here again and we're requalifying experts that were okay to testify at the first trial. So why are we here again? Karen has a right to defend herself and to hire her experts. And if her experts, and the thing is it's not even a matter of are they qualified. They just they don't want them to, that should be up to the jury to battle it out with the defense experts.
Certainly.
So
that happens in trial. If someone from the opposing side in a trial brings forward an expert witness, what's typically done is you as an attorney will cross-examine that witness and try to make it appear to the jury directly that this expert isn't to be regarded as strongly as perhaps your expert who is arguing your side. So, I'm, as Sarah says, in shock and horror that we're even here, because I've spoken with several attorneys who have essentially said that they've never heard of this happening.
I know. And what's crazy is that the world is watching. Like, this isn't just like a small little story that, out somewhere. Massachusetts has a spotlight on us. You think they would not be trying to pull any shenanigans because the world is watching.
Well, this is just an opinion, an observation.
Yes.
If they know that the jig is already up for their reputation, then they're not going to care about that anymore. They're just going to do what they have to do to achieve their agenda.
Right.
So I feel like, at least in the past several months, they are saying, optics be damned. optics be damned. I'm going to do what I need to do to get a conviction, to get Karen behind bars, to keep the Alberts and the McCabe's clean of this, and to have as little fallback on law enforcement as possible. Yes, Sherry. By the way, Sherry, I'm very glad you're here. Sherry is a big supporter of this channel. Yes, mind-blowing in their attempts to discredit Dr. Russell. Guys, Dr. Russell is one of the most qualified doctors that I frankly have ever seen. I mean, it takes a lot to sit on the medical board in California. California has one of the toughest standards in the country. And I could go all day. I mean, in the Daubert hearing, they literally did go all day about her qualifications. I mean, it's insanity to think that Brennan really believes that Dr. Russell is not qualified to talk about either dog bites or car accidents or both. In fact, I feel like this Daubert hearing somewhat backfired.
Yes,
in a way.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, at first, they were just going to ask her not to testify about, well, he was going to ask Judge Bev Canoni to not allow Dr. Russell to testify about the dog bites. And then in that Daubert hearing, it came out that she is almost equally experienced in treating car accident injuries and pedestrian strike injuries.
And she was also the first Malden cop. So Malden cop here in Massachusetts, first female. I mean, she's an outstanding. And what I'm hoping happens, like, wouldn't it be ironic if in the first one, in the first trial, remember how she was limited in her testimony?
Yes.
And now that she's going through this process, I would just hope that all of a sudden now they let her even give, like, let her say even more than they did the first time around, like qualify her as an expert in other areas, because we obviously know the police factor in this. We know that she was a former police officer, all her experience in emergency medical, her dog bite expertise. I mean, I just hope that this backfires on the prosecution and that she's able to even give more testimony is what I'm hoping.
Agreed. And speaking of backfiring, I have to give credit for this discovery to attorney Andrew Myers. He has been a guest on this show. If you guys do not follow him on YouTube, the name of his channel is Law Offices of Andrew D. Myers. So he pointed out that this book, I would have bought it to read it for myself, but the book is like it's like an $80 textbook. Okay. Yeah. Do you remember Hank Brennan pulling that book out saying, have you read this book? And if you haven't, then you don't know shit about dog bites.
Yes.
Or, so as it turns
by a vet.
Yes. Well, and funny enough, I loved Dr. Russell's comeback. Like, the qualifications of the people who wrote this book aren't even in here. I don't know whether they know anything about this, but it turns out that the substance of that book agreed with Dr. Russell.
Go figure.
It aligned with, I mean, at least according to Andrew Myers, because again, I didn't want to spend $80 on the book. but
I trust attorney Myers for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I trust him wholeheartedly. He did go a little bit over the material in which it did say a lot of the same things that Dr. Russell said.
Right.
Oh man, the word duck keeps wanting to fly out of my mouth now that we've been following all this.
Listen, I have the special ducks from the duck man himself.
From Richard.
Yep.
Oh.
If you know, you know.
I know. I got my ducks myself.
Oh.
They're Christmas ducks, actually. So this is like a penguin style duck
Oh,
with a
so
little
cute.
scarf. Yes, yes. And then we have a duck wearing a wreath on his neck.
Oh,
And then this I feel is like Ebenezer
Ooh.
Scrooge as a duck. And then I've got Yeti duck
Oh, nice.
and elf duck. So my goal is to have seasonal ducks
Yes,
for the
that's
whole
awesome.
year, because now that the holidays are behind us, these ducks are no longer as appropriate as they were. But
it's crazy to think that somebody could potentially be intimidated by a little rubber ducky.
what an admission, right?
Like, that's crazy.
I mean, to go to police and say, "Oh, these rubber duckies, they made me sad and put me in fear for my life and my safety." No, they didn't have any violent threats written on them or anything. And no, they didn't put me in any direct line of harm,
Right.
but they made me upset.
Exactly. In a 36-page report, 6-month investigation, and poor Officer John O'Keefe got a 6-page report after
I know.
everything that happened. Like when you compare the two, and there's so many missing footage, ring footage everywhere. So but for the rubber duck story, they were able to get surveillance videos all from, the town square of Canton. But for Officer John O'Keefe, nobody has any ring video. Even though they told us on the news that they was. Initially, the story that was put out in Massachusetts, because I remember hearing about this when it first came out on the news, was that there was surveillance video out there to prove that this had happened. And we have yet to see it. Because it doesn't exist, because it was erased, because she didn't do it.
Yeah, she did not. They have a fraction of the evidence for what happened to Officer John O'Keefe that they have for Rich Schiffer. And here's what upsets me the most. Here's what I would say is my thesis on the case for Officer John O'Keefe. Whether or not Karen Reed did commit this crime, which, if you know jack diddly squat about this case and can rub two brain cells together, you would likely agree that she is factually innocent of this crime. Regardless, when you have the misconduct, the conflicts of interest, and the incompetence that you see scattered throughout this investigation, that leads to your suspect, factually guilty or not. That suspect, according to procedural due process in the United States justice system, that suspect walks. If you have any respect for American procedural due process, then Karen should not be charged a second time. It should not have even gone to trial in the first place. And she should have been acquitted.
Absolutely. And it's crazy to think that anybody who actually watched the trial thinks that she could have done this. Like, the fact that the FBI was investigating the investigators and handed the defense 3,074 pages of exculpatory information,
which I believe is unprecedented, might I add. That this is the first time that, at least during an active investigation, that a state crime has ever been investigated by the feds. So when you have something unprecedented like that happening, that suggests that there are some real problems going on. And I still to this day don't understand why they want to continue to embarrass themselves like this.
Because I think they just want to keep the story, they're just gonna they're in too deep. So
Yep. In for a penny, in for a pound, right?
Yep.
Ah, bless it. Let's try to catch up in the chat a little bit because they've
Yes.
been going buck wild in the Savage Patch here. Oh boy. Sherry is my girl.
Yes.
DJ says you have some great points. Christina says that she is having her regular paranormal night with her hubby, but she wanted to pop in and say hello.
Aw.
Christina, when you're replaying, just know that we love your stinking guts.
Yes, we do.
Let's see. We've still got Jen here. DJ says also this small obscure organization known as the FBI also had the same opinion. Yes, they did about the 2:27 a.m. Google search, right? The FBI, along with Richard Green, had said that Jennifer McCabe's Hoss long to die in cold Google search did in fact took place. So I'm not very techie. If you guys have been following me for any period of time, you know that I have the technological literacy of an 80-year-old. But what I researched and reported back when I was on TikTok is that wall files are very much like key logs, and the wall files are what are telling us that this search happened at 2:27. Okay, so your wall file is kind of there to prevent you from losing data in the event of a crash or something like that of a computer system. And if you all know, one of these is basically a computer that fits in your pocket, much like Einstein predicted, right?
Yep.
So the wall file is clocked in when you hit search. And the wall file is what's suggesting that it happened at that time. So I don't have the expertise to be able to split hairs on this all day, but that is the detail that I hang my hat on. Oh man. Yeah, Sherry brings up a great point. Do you think they're going to try to debunk ARCA? And furthermore, do you think that Hank is going to try to keep them from being able to testify? I mean, it seems that he knows no bounds at this point.
Right. I think he is going to try to not let them in, and hoping he fails. But I wouldn't put it past Hanky Panky. That's all I can say.
Yeah. I really wouldn't put much past him at this point either. I'm seeing...
He talked a big game before he started. He said, I'm going to come in here and be objective and be fair. And everything he's done since that initial statement has been the total opposite. It's, he has yet to put forth any information that actually implies that Karen Reed is guilty, just trying to, debunk information and experts and trying to keep experts that can actually show that she is innocent.
Right.
So
yeah, he has nobody to to actually debunk what Dr. Russell is indicating with these dog bites. He has nobody to come forward who is any more qualified than Shannon Burgess or Trooper Paul and say that this was a pedestrian strike. So
now talk about embarrassment. Trooper Paul. Oh my gosh.
I know.
That is embarrassing.
At the very least, I would argue that the defense should bring him up if the prosecution doesn't, which I don't believe they're, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe they're going to be bringing him back at the prosecution. They're gonna look for another accident reconstructionist.
Right.
But the defense, knowing that this entire argument against Karen is based off of the findings of Trooper Joseph Paul, Mr.
I'd love
Potatoes
to
for
hear him
brain.
talk about the pirouette again, but
I would
again,
too.
it's an embarrassment because it's
Yeah. And let me just say, so when I was going to school for education, I had to take a ton of human growth and development and like psychology courses because I needed for my degree to be qualified for K through 12 before I made a final decision as to what age group I was ultimately going to go with. But in those courses, I learned a lot about human behavior, right? When Trooper Paul said to Alan Jackson on the stand, "Oh, that's what was told to me," I don't believe he intended at that moment, at that exact moment, to say that the crime scene was talking to him. I think he was trying to backpedal from saying that another person told him anything.
right.
Okay.
That's a good point. I'll give you
Yeah.
that's definitely yes. I
Let
can
me see if
totally
I can
see that.
pull that up actually, because I'm petty like that when
Yeah,
I want
I'm
to
here
prove a
for it.
point. Let's see. Honestly, though, it would take me a while to kind of scrub through and find the exact point at which that happens. But so at first he says that's what was told to me.
Right.
Right? Like that piece of
Yeah.
information is what was said. And so Jackson says back to him, "Told you by who?" And he doesn't say the crime scene at first. He says crime scene as though CSI, the group of individuals. And then from there he backpedals further and says, "No, the crime scene told me that from the evidence. It was the crime scene that told me that." So I'll bring that back up on another episode. But
yes.
yeah, he wasn't intending from the get-go to say that Trooper Paul I'm sorry, to say that the crime scene was actually talking to him. He was trying to get himself out of trouble. M is here. Do you want to read M's comment, Beatrice?
Sure. You never know what Auntie Bev will do though. Makes me nervous, even though even though it's so obvious she qualifies as an expert witness to us. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Um, I feel about Judge Canoni very similarly to the way that I feel about Morrissey and Proctor. And it's like I said a few minutes back that I believe they know that optics are fucked at this point. Pardon my my cursey words. I use cursey words here on this channel. So she understands that her reputation is probably through her fingers at this point. So she's also making the same desperate rulings to put as much weight on one side of the scale as she can.
Right. I actually sat in the courtroom on November 13th. And she's the same, like that, like, you know how sometimes like when you see things coming through the TV, she sounds like she is so annoyed the whole time. She walks up, sat down, and she just seems you can hear the breathing. I was out in the gallery. You can hear the huffing and puffing. And you know, when she speaks to I mean, these are attorneys. These are the way she speaks to them. She kind of gave Hanky Panky a little bit of attitude. And that was a day that he didn't come prepared with her parents. I believe it had to do with
the Verizon records request and all that.
And he hadn't done the request, so he came like unprepared. She did kind of huff and puff at him, but even about the scheduling, I mean, we were all sitting there when she talked about, can't you just take the red eye? Like that comment, I said I was in there for that. And
I don't know if I could sit in the courtroom with Judge Canoni because I can't keep my thoughts to myself one way or another. I might not speak, but this face will get a bitch in trouble.
And the thing
So
is that there's court officers walking up and down the aisles to make sure you don't have your cell phone, that you're like not like they're literally like walking and making sure that like nothing's going on. Like there was four of them up and down the like walkway,
man,
just
just
making sure that and
it seems
everybody
like complete
reacted.
disregard. Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Can't you just take a red eye, Mr. Jackson? I like that what he said back was, I do every time I come here. You're on.
It's a 6-hour flight from California to Boston. That's like if
Right.
you're going a straight,
And that's without a
nonstop.
layover or anything.
Yeah. And the
So
time change. That's the thing.
true. Yeah,
Because
with that factored in, it's impossible, even if he did take a red eye.
right. So
Man. Well, I feel like she prioritizes what's convenient for her above all else. Just from all that huffing and puffing. That lady should have worked at a DMV, in my opinion.
And you know what else too? I was on one of Melanie's streams. She was streaming one of the pre-trials, and then the John Walsh came. The John Walsh hearing came up.
Oh,
And
do you mean Brian Walsh?
I'm sorry, Brian Walsh. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yes.
Oh no,
Brian
no worries.
Walsh. I was trying to think and talk at the same time. And she was actually so respectful to him. A man that's been accused of chopping up his wife. The way she spoke to him. So it's like, that's why all these things are, to me, feel intentional. Because if you are able to look at a man who you believe may have done this to his wife,
a heinous crime,
and then just look at him and talk to him like nothing, but yet the Yannetti and whatchamacallit, oh my god, I'm losing
Yannetti, Jackson,
Yannetti and
Alessi.
Jackson, yes, yeah. She speaks to them like she's annoyed and like they're bothering her. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, she's spitting venom out of her mouth. I mean, she's just so full of vitriol. A lot. She speaks to just about everybody the way that Brennan was speaking to Dr. Russell.
Yes. What a shame. I mean, I feel like he showed his true colors. Just the way and you see when she audibly gasped, how, she was taken back. Like,
oh yeah.
This is a woman that I'm sure has gotten so much respect throughout her career, has so much, her credentials are incredible. And this is the way she's being spoken to.
Just unbelievable. And I don't know how on earth he's going to refute what she said about the fibers.
Right.
That was new. So for those of you who don't know, Dr. Russell said in part 1 of this Daubert hearing that took place before Christmas.
Yep.
That another part of what led her to the conclusion that this was an animal attack is, and oh, by the way, this may not have been brought up if Hank Brennan had not said in his motion that he wants to know exactly what in each wound and each puncture hole in the clothing leads her to believe that this is an animal attack. Okay, so this may not have been brought up if Hank hadn't opened that can of worms in the first place. But she said that because the fibers are sticking back up,
right,
that is indicative.
So go in and then
and then come back out. Now, if that were, say, I don't know, taillight fragments, those taillight fragments aren't going to animate, come alive, and start, being jumping beans and popping out of his clothes. Right. So with the fibers coming up, I have no idea how Hank intends to refute that.
Right. I just hope he's more respectful, to her when in 2 days. Let's hope. But
right. I mean, he doesn't need to treat her like a hostile witness, okay? She's a third party. She was not there. She's not lying the way that he was suggesting that she was. Ugh, bless it. What do you think's going to happen on Tuesday?
I mean, I think she's going to kick ass like she did the first time around and hold her own. I think she's overqualified, super qualified, whatever you want to call it. And I think she's just gonna, I mean, I think she'll probably be, now she got a taste. She's had a month too. So I think this might have been like the first week around the 10th or 11th. I forget the exact date. So she's had almost a month. Now she got a taste of how he's going to speak to her. I think you're going to see her. I think she, just with her experience, I think she's a quick learner and she's going to come back and hold her own. But I thought she did amazing. I think she did definitely was more confident in what she was saying. I think it went well the first time around. But I think she's had a month to also digest the way Hank Brennan spoke with her.
Oh, yeah. And I would bet my sweet potatoes that she bought that damn book. Too.
I know, right?
Awesome. I bet you that was her winter break reading, right? Exactly. I'm looking forward to seeing her clap back a little bit because you're right, Beatriz. She's a very smart woman. This is somebody who I believe channeled her ADD in ways that most of us only wish we could, right?
Right.
Like, oh well. While my mother was ill, I had to come home from MIT. So I decided to become the first female cop in Moulton, Massachusetts. Just while I was there and while I was grieving my mother. And then I decided I wanted to learn more about forensic photography. And then I decided I wanted to finish my medical degree, work in ER, be in charge of the entire State Department of Corrections medical, and the rest is history. So she's definitely a quick learner because she has more experience in her pinky toe than most people have through their entire lives. And not only did she just like spend time as a forensic pathologist, not only did she just spend time as a doctor, this woman became the head of these departments, okay? It takes a lot to become a departmental head. Clerk Jim, hello, my friend. So glad you're here. He says that wall files, so this is back to Jennifer McCabe, wall files are real time. It's a queue for the data to be stored in the main database, or I'm assuming that's what he means by DB.
Yes.
I think, yeah. Okay, good. So I'm not wrong. I'm happy to hear that. Let's see what else has popped up in the Savage Patch.
And let's not forget,
I got way behind in the chat. Let's not forget what
Celebrite is the gold standard. It's what's used to convict people across the country. And now we're questioning Celebrite if it's legit or not. I mean,
that could have Brian Walsh walk, girl.
Exactly. They were even able to pinpoint when he was at his mother's house that he was near the dumpster versus in his mother's home. She lives like in an apartment complex, condo complex. And they were able to pinpoint that.
And, you know, Richard Green. Oh, M says that she loves your voice.
Thank you. I don't have the cool microphone like Nurse Kim, but try.
I haven't gotten a chance to hear Nurse Kim's new mic.
Oh my God, she sounds so sexy. Like, totally.
I'm all about it.
And actually, can I just mention before I forget, because I know that you know how us girls are. We start on one path and we go 100 different ways.
Our brains are like noodles, like a ball of spaghetti.
But then it's like, oh, wait, let me go back to this. So Nurse Kim has put out a birthday challenge. She's turning 39 on January 12th. She's going to have, January 12th. She's going to, at 2:00, she's going to have a birthday stream. And she's asking everyone to donate $3.90 in honor of her 39th birthday. So if you're able to, if not, just help spread the word. So I've made it a personal mission to help her, get to her goal. And on her birthday, she's going to read all the messages that they put on the defense. Like when you make your donation, you can leave a message and say, "Happy birthday, Nurse Kim." So she is going to read all of the donations, and I think it's going to be awesome. And it's not a huge commitment. So if you have $3.90 to spare, hey, or help spread the word so we can help her get to her goal.
And if you're feeling generous, $39 will do.
Yes, that would be awesome.
For her 39th birthday. And let me just add this, because I've never publicly asked before, but if any of you viewers are members of a certain website that starts with an O and there's an F in it, has something to do with fans, maybe consider doing a stream in which you suggest, hey, instead of sending money to me, put something, here's the link to the Karen Reed Defense Fund, right? Yep. Oh, Lord.
That's funny. That's a good one.
Hey, I'm just saying, if you're already shaking it, you might as well do it for Karen, right?
Yeah.
So let's see. I'm sorry, guys, for being so behind in this chat. I don't have my reading glasses on. Here we go. This will help.
Sorry. You know how it is when girls start to talk.
Very, very, very true. Larry, glad you are here, pal. Does anybody know if a tool mark expert has looked at the pieces of taillight, if they have an opinion on what broke them? Yes. His name is, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank now. I don't.
So you think the defense hired a tool mark expert?
The defense did not hire this guy. Okay. Hang on. I'm going to look it up. David McIntyre. Yes.
Oh, okay.
David McIntyre bought taillights, or at least one, from a Lexus LX 570.
Okay.
He did reach out to both the prosecution and the defense. So he's talked to Hank Brennan about it. Brennan even asked him to send his findings, and he still is prosecuting Karen. Okay. So he knows that this is a bit of a sham, but what David McIntyre pretty much proved, and I'll put a link in the comments, guys, after we're through here, for any of you who are on Replay Crew, or if anybody who wants to go back and look at it. But he put together umpteen pages of evidence showing that not only was Karen's taillight not broken by hitting a pedestrian, because it's nearly impossible, but the damage that was done to the taillight would have taken multiple blows. Are y'all hearing me?
Right. And if you look at that inverted Sallyport video, they were back there. There was a little group of them, like 3 or 4 back there. You can tell. I mean, I can just, certainly, they were up to no good.
It could have even happened during those 48 missing minutes from out front. I mean, it could have happened at any time. It didn't necessarily have to happen in the Sallyport. But what McIntyre suggests is that it was done not with, obviously soft body tissue
No.
Okay. But
Yep.
also, it had to have been done with some kind of rod object, like with a crowbar or
A
a
hammer, maybe?
baseball bat, a hammer, something like that. And it would have taken multiple strikes. So somebody gave that taillight a walloping, according to Mr. McIntyre. So I'm going to set a reminder. Set a reminder to add David McIntyre findings to the comments. Thank you.
Okay, I added that. You're welcome.
Right.
You're so polite thanking Siri.
Listen, if AI ever reaches a point like beyond what we can control, I want the robots to remember that I was nice to them.
Love it. That's awesome.
Oh goodness. I want them to remember I'm that nice to Alexa too. So let's see. That was a great question, Larry, by the way. So yeah, make sure you look up David McIntyre. Sherry says a creator did something did an amazing, hilarious video. The music they inserted into the video was perfect. And when Auntie Bev had hearts coming out of her eyes when an expert was getting on the stand. Oh yes. Was it Joe Flipperhead?
I think so.
I think you're thinking of Joe Flipperhead.
It was one of the ARCA guys, right? I think she was the younger one.
Yes. So there were a couple points in which she did that. Yeah. So she was definitely checking out Dr. Wolf and Dr. Rentschler. There was even this point where one of them was sitting down, so his tush was like, closer to her, and she's like, getting right, like leaning forward, and oh man, that
was hilarious.
Twisting
but you can tell. I mean, you can tell when she likes a witness.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes, her chair swivels, so she'll like.
Oh yeah, she's like
swinging back and forth.
Her eyeglasses around, like.
So
funny.
For Halloween, I was Auntie Bev, and I made a TikTok video doing exactly that. I was going on my swivel chair and like twisting my glasses. I had the wig and the gown and all that.
I hear she wears like amazing stilettos though. I heard that her shoe game is on point.
Okay.
Just a side note.
I might need to come find out.
Yes.
I have no idea why that interests me so much. But it's one of those things that I do want to come see for myself.
If we can squeeze out one positive thing, it's her shoes.
Right. Nikki, our fearless leader of the mods, is reminding everybody to leave your touch DNA, but no tissue DNA, okay, on the like button. Please also do so on the subscribe. Thank you, fam. Thank you, friends.
Help a girl out.
Well, it's not about me. It's about, getting the word out. And, as serious as all this stuff is, it's important that we look into it, we call it out, and we do so in a way that is not detrimental to our own mentality and our own well-being. So, what I am trying to bring to this is at least a flavor that is fun, where we can kind of see a little bit of the humorous irony in what's going on here. Now, I understand lives are on the line. Lives have been taken as well. Like, I am 100% observant of that. And I will get up in this camera and yell at it like I'm yelling right at Michael Proctor. And I refuse to call him Trooper Proctor, by the way. So I'm acting like I'm yelling right at Michael Proctor or Joseph Paul or whoever. But I try to do it in a way that is at least a little more refreshing.
Yeah.
So that we all,
I love that. And I think, with all the content creators just giving different points of views, and just, always remembering all these little things that we've witnessed and we've heard throughout the trial. And now, there's just so many of them, that things that have come up, and
Mhm.
also side stories off the main story, that it's incredible.
It's too many to ignore. Am I right?
Too
I
many
mean,
for it to be not a coincidence. It's a
uh,
you know what I mean? Like, it's too many.
yeah, one or two bugger ups would be one thing, but what we have here is too many to count, in the words of Dr. Renee Stonebridge.
Right.
Well, she wasn't talking about bugger ups. She was at the time referring to traumatic brain bleeds. Okay.
Right.
We're talking about contusions to Officer John O'Keefe's brain, which, Beatrice, you may be interested in this. So, Dr. Renee Stonebridge was the medical expert who the prosecution brought in to testify. She was brought in specifically as a neuro expert for the head injuries to Officer John
She was the one
O'Keefe.
with the tattoos, right?
Yes, isn't
Oh,
she a
yes. She was
babe? Oh my
quadruple
gosh.
board certified. Just
She was.
adding that to that.
Is quadruple board certified. Now, what she said, and I hope to see the defense kind of give a line of questioning that will lead us here this time. But what she said is that Officer John O'Keefe didn't just have one great big concussion from a blow to the back of the skull or one to the front. He had too many contusions for her to even count. Does that sound like a single strike to the head and then possibly you falling onto frozen ground?
No.
Not to me, at least. It sounds like his melon took a good walloping. That sounds like multiple blows to me.
In my humble opinion, sounds like it to me as well.
And that's pretty significant trauma compared to the rest of the body as well. So I do hope that this go around we see a line of questioning that kind of leads us there a little further, and that they kind of dig into that just a little harder. Right,
Yes.
y'all?
Yep.
So Sherry, our girl Sherry, says Brennan better not accuse her of lying again. That gasp hurt my heart for Dr. Russell. Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Dr. Russell reminds me of that neighbor that you've got 2 doors down who watches your kids if you're in a pinch.
Right.
Like, if you need to run out, you get called into work, something crazy happens.
And even though she's retired, did you hear her when she was in December? How she was saying that she's still keeping up with all her certifications, making sure she's staying up to date. Obviously we can tell she's older, and she's still making sure that she's up to date on all her qualifications.
She does that for several reasons.
Yep.
She still is brought in for consultation purposes on some things, from what I understand.
Yes.
And she also, continues to testify as an expert witness in other cases. So I can see her wanting to keep up with her board certifications for that reason.
Right. And also, but I just meant more because they were trying to act like she's been retired for so long, like she's out of the game. And my point is, like,
no, she's still certified.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
She's still going to all those lectures, guys.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Let's see what else is going on in the chat. DJ says that we are on fire. Yes, DJ.
Thank you, DJ.
We're sweating over here. Yes, DJ. See, okay, this is really funny that he's the one saying this in the chat, because typically when DJ is live and trying to talk about David McIntyre, he's the one who forgets the name, and then I in the chat will remind him, and then he got to do it back for us here tonight. Thank you, DJ. Oh, we love DJ here. Let's see. Shaming of the day was the creator to which Sherry D was referring.
Okay.
Let's see. Welcome, Ghost 13. We are so glad to have you. Larry's from Indiana. Larry's a Hoosier. I was born in Noblesville, Larry. You'll have to tell me kind of where you're from specifically. Oh, goodness. So, let's see. I don't understand that. As Dr. Russell stated, she did an autopsy. Oh, she did an autopsy as recently as this year. Okay. Okay. Yes. So yeah, she's still relevant, guys.
She is.
She's 100% still relevant. And might I just add that evolution hasn't, completely changed the anatomy of the human or the human body or the dog body. Okay.
Exactly.
Like it's how far have we evolved in the past couple decades? Ridiculous for them to argue that she's no longer able to testify. Someone in here's name is Lexus Taillight Teeth. I love it. Hello.
Oh, that's awesome. I love the creative names.
I'm all about it. Someone named themselves Ipsy Dixit. Yes. I love that. Someone else is named like Hank's Regret.
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
Letteros by Betteros. That one's a good one.
That was a great one.
Lally's pencils, like so many good ones.
I will never forget the face of Lally as he's like struggling to hold that bundle of them.
When Yannetti went up to Hanky Panky and Lally didn't even move. He kind of like went in between. He reached down to tell him something, and Lally didn't even like move. Like it was just so crazy. He was just sitting there holding the pencils.
So give me your thoughts on Lally right now, like being kind of in the doghouse, not really. I mean, this past motion, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I believe this last motion that Lally put up, I'm sorry, that Hank put up, is the only one since Hank was brought on that even had Lally's name on it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he looks depressed in court. His posture is like hunched over. He just looks, I mean, they call him Lunchbox Lally for a reason. Like he literally just, just sitting there. And Hank Brennan is the one that was introduced, him and Laura McLaughlin, I think her name is. He introduced, like everybody on the defense side, this past hearing, everybody introduced themselves, but Hank Brennan introduced the rest of his crew.
Mm-hmm.
They just stood there while he, wow.
Do you think that is by Lally's own choice? Do you think that's maybe Hank trying to tell Lally to stay out of his way? Or do you think that's maybe Morrissey?
I think it's Meatball that has Lally up there because Lally, if anybody knows, I mean, he does, I'll give Lally this. He does know it because he just went through it. So he does he knows the case better than Brennan. But it doesn't even look like Brennan's going to him for any, like, he's just there. But I don't think he's there by his own, I think he's being told that you need to sit in that courtroom.
Right.
He doesn't look like he's there because he wants to be. And
you need to watch Brennan show you how it's done.
Exactly.
Man, talk about the
doghouse. And how he stays name.
Right. Man, talk about the doghouse, though. I mean, he just, you're right. He does seem quite depressed almost. Larry is from Southern Indiana, like around Evansville.
Oh,
Maybe. I don't know. Lally looked like he was in detention. Oh, absolutely, especially with all those pencils, right?
Right. The only thing he was missing was the dunce hat.
I'm gonna make a meme of Lally holding the pencils with a dunce hat. Oh my gosh. Like sitting in a corner.
Yeah.
Too, like
In
maybe with a pencil, maybe with
And
a
he
pencil
literally is the front of the
sharpener
class.
too. Oh my gosh.
The old-fashioned pencil sharpeners we used to have that you'd have to be on a wall.
You got to hand crank. They were like bolted to the wall. Oh my word. I would so be about it.
And why does he need so many pencils? What was he writing down? Did he even move?
In order to need that many pencils, you'd basically have to be Madam Court reporter.
Right?
Right? I mean, you'd be having to write down literally everything. My gosh. Yeah, they're just going buck wild. Make sure, according to Sherry, to show Lally hunched over like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
All right. You have I want to see this meme when it's ready.
Oh yeah. So it's gonna be like, Quasimodo with the bell in the tower.
That's awesome.
Yeah, his body language did say everything. French lick. Okay. Okay. Who's your friends? Lexus Taillight Teeth says, I don't make it to enough of your lives, Britt. I need to get here more. Oh, I'd be so happy to have you. I try very hard to give plenty of notice. I even made a little poster with Beatrice's face on it for this one. I did, which it's a lot of adjusting for me. I have to say, because I'm coming from the TikTok world where nothing is announced beforehand. It's,
Right.
If you're doing a live, you're just hopping on. You might make a little video saying that you're doing it later. Usually you just don't. So this is a very different world, a different community, might I say, as well. It's all different people. Different people watch YouTube from TikTok, which I was kind of hoping to get more of my TikTok followers over on here, but a lot of them just don't do YouTube. But that's neither here nor there.
And I can't even watch regular TV anymore. Like I literally just sign on. I don't even. I used to watch TV religiously. Now I don't care because all they do is worry you about things that you don't need to worry about. Like I get my news from Facebook, YouTube, and X. Like that's it. Like as long as, because like even when there's a storm around here, we're gonna get snow. They talk about it for days, panic, and everybody rushes to get bread and milk, and it's like,
and toilet paper.
Right. Like it's crazy. I literally go on to see who's live, who I can watch, who was on the night before, who I missed. Sometimes like I'm exhausted. Like I was watching Turtle Boy last night. I have to watch the rest of it this morning because it was already getting late. But I just can't even watch. I can't even stand regular TV with mainstream media. Like
I don't have cable anymore.
Yeah.
For that reason exactly. It just there seems to be overhyping of the small things and maybe not enough reporting on the things that we do as, the public want to focus on. So give me a prediction, Beatrice. Do you think Bev will make a ruling from the bench after the conclusion of this hearing on Tuesday? This Tuesday, guys, January 7th, we're going to have the rest of this Daubert hearing.
9 a.m.
9 8 for me. You Central Time Zone people. So, yeah, what do you think, Bev?
I don't think she's going to rule from the bench. I think she's going to, in her own, the way she's been doing it, she's going to get back to them. And hopefully we hear soon about the SJC. They're coming back into session, I believe on the 6th, I think tomorrow. So
Mhm.
hopefully we still, because we still have that pending SJC ruling. So hopefully we find out.
What do you think will happen there? Do you think that oh, poor Nikki, she's in Pacific time. Yeah. She's
Yeah.
gonna be up at the butt crack of dawn for Dr. Russell, but we're
I
gonna
know
do
it's
it
going
for
to be a
Dr.
long day
Russell.
for Dr. Russell. I saw her
Yeah.
walking. I mean, I saw her on TV walking into the courtroom. Poor thing. Like, it was such a long day that day, and
Mhm.
so unnecessary to make
100%.
this is just to make Karen spend more money flying experts in. Now a month later, I mean, like I said, I'm really hoping that she's had a month to digest everything that she experienced, and I think she's gonna kick ass on the 7th. But this is just to drain Karen of more money, and no, I don't think she's gonna rule from the bench. I think this is gonna be I'll take it I'll take it under advisement.
As she always says.
Yep.
Yeah.
But as far as the SJC, I hope that they create new law or new whatever. Like, this can't just be that they need to have the jurors complete the forms, and whether you want to, like, it can't just be left the way this was done. They weren't polled, they were told, and they literally, that's why the jurors were outraged. The defense didn't know the jurors had acquitted her on 1 and 3, and they started calling. Like,
And they called the prosecution. Lally
Yep.
didn't say jack squat until he was
Right.
asked. Right?
Exactly.
And
Yep.
then he also didn't say when he heard from them either. So they could have been
Exactly.
reaching out
Right away.
instantly.
And then he
So
put it out there so that, like, oh, but we didn't want to reply because we would have to give their identities, and so almost like
yeah,
to throw a thread in there, like,
he say that back to one of the jurors as well. I can't guarantee your anonymity
exactly.
if
Yep.
you want to talk about this, which that's beyond me because Bev can just have everything.
Sealed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Sequester it all.
I think it was sealed pretty quickly. I don't know. I forget which one happened first, but their names were sealed. And I think when Lally actually admitted that he had been contacted by some of the jurors, that their names were already sealed.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, absolutely. It's you're right. It does almost seem like a backhanded threat that was made. Marty Weinberg was absolutely right, by the way, in his argument that, in Massachusetts, before you can declare a mistrial, the judge basically needs to go to every corner, take every measure to complete the trial and complete jury deliberations and get a verdict before ruling a mistrial.
and he
And
also said to them, when you have don't come back until you have decided on all 3
on
counts.
all 3 counts, correct.
And they
And she
didn't.
even said, if you see something confusing in the written instructions, just go with what I'm saying to you now.
Which
Okay?
is come back when you figured out all 3 things.
Yep. Ah, boy.
I
What a
mean, I
mess.
feel like they should have been. I mean, there just has to be a better way in Massachusetts that we prevent this from ever happening to anybody else. When you have multiple counts, they should have had them fill out the form if they were undecided, yes, no, undecided. Like, I just feel
Mhm.
like it shouldn't have been just we don't fill it out, that's it.
Right. Right. Now, I also think that this well-written foreman, if he
He
if
said
it
a
were
lot of
me.
big words, but they didn't
Mhm.
really mean anything.
Right. And if it were me, if I were a foreman of a jury and we had come to a conclusion about 2 of the 3 charges, I would have informed her of that. I wouldn't have written down what they were necessarily, but I
Yeah.
would have said something to the tune of, we're good on 2 of them. There's one that we are still like, here's where we're at.
Right.
We're
Right.
struggling on this third one, or technically the
Yeah,
second
or
one.
we're hung on one count, one out
Yeah.
of 3. That would
Yeah.
have explained exactly the situation, and the defense could have now, heard that and pushed for, for the jury to be polled for whatever. Just
Right. And there could be some rule against that, but my thinking is that would have been the logical thing to do if you're really wanting to communicate that you as a jury are struggling to come to a verdict. I would say, hey, we're struggling on one charge,
right.
not we're struggling on all the
Or 3.
charges.
Exactly.
Because he did say charges, plural,
Mm-hmm.
in that letter. And if you remember, Beatrice,
Yes, I remember. I'm going to remember.
this foreman, I'm not going to give his name or anything because I don't want to contribute to the doxing that already took place.
Yep.
But there were some details that came out about this individual that bring forward a lot of questions as to whether he was a plant.
Right.
It was pretty interesting. This guy had been on the receiving end of a pedestrian car strike. He's also a former cop. So those are 2 things that I think a defense attorney, if he had known, would have said, I don't want him in. I don't want him sitting on this panel. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Right. I know. And did you also hear that Fanning, who was involved with the investigations and some of these investigations, was the one that was
Most of them.
yeah,
Karen,
was also
Sandra, and Justin.
yep. Was, chauffeuring the in watching the jurors.
Yes.
Because
yes,
they were
he was
being
in charge
bussed
of your
from
babysitting.
they were being bussed from an undisclosed location over to Dedham,
Gotcha.
and he was involved in the transport.
If Bev really cared about protecting those jurors, she shouldn't have let Fanning anywhere near them.
No. But again, how is that even a thing? Like, how is that even allowed happening? Somebody who was involved with the initial investigation, now you have them, babysitting the jury. What?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And you're letting the Alberts sit during closing arguments,
right?
staring lasers at the jury.
And they said they were intimidated.
Yeah.
They did.
At least one of them.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. If trial 2.0 occurs, I think the families need to switch seating.
True.
To what other seat, Sherry? I mean, there were like almost none, but yeah.
The ones closest, I mean, we saw Paul's crotch the whole 9 weeks.
Oh God.
I mean, so yes, I do agree. I hopefully, but nothing's going to go easy because they're not just everything's going to be a battle. That's the thing. But yes, I feel that her family should have been the ones facing, next to Karen, facing the jury as opposed to his family. And, but
yeah,
it is a very small courtroom. They're only allowed each 10 people and then 10 media. So it is a very small courtroom.
Now, in your opinion, will they use the same courtroom again, or have we heard anything on that?
We haven't heard anything officially. Right now, where it's being done is the bigger courtroom, all this pretrial stuff.
Well, it was that way for the last trial too, though.
Yes. So it is a bigger courtroom, and they're letting about 30 people come in at a time. So, yes, I think they should be behind her, not next to her. I agree.
Yeah. I definitely agree to be able to see the evidence.
Couple of feet. That's how close they were to him.
Mercy me.
I'm sorry, Paul was to her.
Wow.
And you can tell one of the times Yannetti sat on, closer to the end of the table, closer to Paul. Like
Mhm.
I mean, she was being glared at for 9
That-
weeks.
That's got to be out of compliance with some policy
Right.
or procedure, not which, in this case, it would just be a drop in the bucket at this point. But yeah, I definitely agree with you, Sherry, that the O'Keefe family should have not been facing away from the screen showing the evidence. I understand that a lot of it's being read out loud and everything, but the O'Keefe family, in my heart, I feel has had the wool pulled over their eyes.
Mhm.
Prior to this trial taking place, the witnesses, which may be third party culprits, but for now we're going to go with the official title of witnesses. They befriended the O'Keefes. They kind of got in their ear, took them under their wing, probably brought them lasagna or something, a couple days a month, and started to influence them. I mean, it's very clear. In fact, the one of the O'Keefe family members were who invited Brian Albert and Jen McCabe into the courtroom. In fact, didn't Lindsay Gaetani get invited by one of them as well? So I would love for them to be able to really see the evidence with their own two eyeballs and hopefully draw some of the same conclusions that we have.
Right. Yeah. I mean, hopefully hopefully they do change the seating. I think the defense pushed for the smaller courtroom because you couldn't see, the jury wasn't going to be able to see the faces of the people on the stand. So
Okay.
they felt it was, so the first go around, it was the defense that actually pushed for the smaller courtroom, just because in the bigger courtroom, I mean, these are very old buildings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the courtroom itself, like the one I was in on the 13th of November, like the bigger one, like there's like chipping paint. I mean, the architecture is beautiful, but these are very old this is a very old courthouse. And again, same thing, they're staggered. Yes.
Okay.
The way the defense is, like when you're seeing, new courthouses, they're side by side, and these are like staggered. The judge, the prosecution, the defense.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So the jury, because they were in this smaller courtroom, they were able to see Jennifer McCabe
Yes.
staring daggers at Alan Jackson as she was lying through her tooth.
Right.
Man. Lexus Taillight Teeth says, okay, so we're referring to Paul, rumored to have invited Gaetani. Lexus Taillight Teeth says that he believes Paul did. Well, somebody did.
Right.
Lindsay's not a journalist.
Well, it had to be somebody from the family that, because they're only allowed 10 guests in at a time.
Yeah. Well, man, we've covered some amazing stuff tonight, Beatriz. I'm so glad that you hopped on. It's a pleasure having you. I will definitely be getting with you about having you back. You're a damn delight, I've gotta say.
Thank you.
And obviously we all appreciate everything that you've done to stand for justice in Massachusetts. So can you tell the audience a little bit about some of the things coming up, some of the things that you're doing over the next few weeks?
Yeah. So, I try to get to the standouts as much as I can. It's actually really cold out there. The last time I was there, it was like 28 degrees, so cold standing out there for 2 hours.
Ugh.
But I try to go and get involved with as much as I can. Again, my path started by going to a Karen Reed standout, but since then, like I said, I mentioned, I met Jen Root and
Mhm.
heard about her brother's story. So we have things coming up with that. We also been trying
Great.
to do combined standouts. So Jen Root has we have the celebration of life coming up um, on let's see, February 7th. They're we're doing that then, and then next Sunday 1 to 3 is Sandra Birchmore's standout in Stoughton. And Brian LTL today released a portion of Enrique Delgado Garcia's death certificate. 3 of
Okay.
the items on there, when it talked about cause of death, manner of death, and there was a third one, which I can't remember right now, but everything's said under investigation. So I just went a couple weeks ago. They had the family of Enrique Delgado Garcia had a standout out in Worcester. His aunt was very vocal. I interviewed with 4 different, maybe 5 or 6 different news stations that were out there because the aunt wants to tell her story. So I
Right.
was
And
able
you're
to translate.
translating.
Yep. So I
Yeah.
was able to translate. So I'm just kind of going where I'm needed right now. So if I'm called to help out with any causes, I'm going to go out there, So right now, I feel like my path began with Karen Reed, but right now I want to stand for all these people that are not able to speak for themselves.
Yes.
So
Contribute to every stream.
exactly, and
Yeah.
contribute in whatever way I can. And when I'm called to come out and help out, and then I'm going to show up, because I feel like we can't just stand by and just have this happening in our state. Knowing how it affects the family.
Mhm.
Yes, the vigil. Thank you, Jen. Sorry, I misspoke. So yes, the vigil is going to be on February 7th. Thank you, Jen.
Okay. Which,
Yes.
guys, this is going to be the 5th year anniversary since the incident. So the family of Just En Route has now gone 5 years without answers and without justice. Jen is getting the case brought to the Supreme Court. So when you guys are meditating or praying or whatever it is that you do, please, please, please keep Jen and the rest of Just En Route's family in your prayers, because they definitely deserve to see the tables turn here in their favor a little bit, because they've pretty much just been shut out every step of the way. And in this show, guys, we will be going over the files from the Just En Route case. So definitely stay tuned for that. Sherry says, add to your calendar Peter Murphy's court date.
Yes.
Thursday, February 6th for trespassing.
So did you hear about that?
No.
So Peter Murphy is a retired Canton
I know who
police
he is.
officer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, he had gone to a standout. Right next to the police station is a church with a parking lot. He parked there. And this is what happens as a result of parking in that parking lot where he stood out, in front of the Canton police office, police station, protesting out there. He gets, a summons to go to court for trespassing, for parking his vehicle instead of being asked to move or tow him or give him a warning. This is what he has to go through now, is to have to go to court because he parked. So I mean,
in a public. I'm sorry, but it's still a public parking lot,
right? I mean, it belongs to the church. They couldn't have.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
so
but
technically, so I guess they put out signs saying no trespassing, but it's been buried by the snow. So he didn't see it. And again, they've used that parking lot before, because this isn't the first time they go out there, do standouts there. They do them all the time.
Sure.
So, yeah. So poor Peter Murphy has to deal with that. He's the nicest gentleman. He's it's sad.
Why
Yep. So
are they
Sherry
going
D
after
just
people like this? I mean, they choose.
because there's power in numbers, and he shows up for all the standouts. He's out there. He goes to the court. He goes to court. So the thing is that they're just targeting him, and it's so sad. And this man
Mhm.
had probably trained some of these officers that are at Canton PD right now. Like that's so sad.
And this just goes to show that this is part of their culture,
Right.
guys. This is not just a one-time bugger up, okay?
Right.
They do this with regularity, okay? If you know anything about the Sandra Birchmore cover up, if you know anything about Just on Roots case, all right? This is their culture. A fish rots at the head. So it's not just a couple bad apples here.
Right.
It's and they know how to conduct an investigation. If you watched any of the Brian Walsh trial, in which ironically Celebrite is part of what got a conviction in that trial.
Right.
Tee
Right.
but they know how to conduct an investigation.
When they want to. It's so that's what I mean. It's intentional. It's intentional.
Absolutely. Free Peter Murphy,
Yes.
y'all. Good grief. Sergeant Good is the one who personally handed that to Sergeant Peter Murphy. Holy Moses.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, they have parked there before and it wasn't a
Yeah.
problem.
Wasn't a problem. And the thing is, when it comes to like the standouts, there has never been police called, any kind of everything has been so peaceful
Peaceful.
protest. I've
Mhm.
always felt safe. I see pictures of tons of them because they get posted. And
Mhm.
these standouts are just peaceful protests. There's no police being called, there's no violence. I mean,
It's a big
and
Esty fest. Yeah.
right.
Good Lord. That's unbelievable. I'm gonna definitely be looking further into that myself.
Yes.
Thank you guys for letting me know about it because this is the first I'm hearing of it. But I definitely know who Peter Murphy is.
Yeah.
And I mean, after his years of dedicated service, this is
To that town.
how they repay him.
Right. They couldn't have just told him, given him a warning, like just say, "Hey, move your car." No, he has, he was there.
Yeah.
He parked
Kind
his
of like
car, went
kind of
home,
like
and thought
Lucky.
nothing of it.
Yeah. It's like
Right.
Lucky Lawford wanting to be courteous to the Alberts.
Right.
When there was a Ford Edge
Exactly.
parked along the curb
Mhm.
at 3 o'clock-ish in the morning.
He's
On
2:30, but yes, when he saw it, I think his first pass was around 2:30.
so yeah, somewhere around that time on January 29th.
Mhm. Things that make you go,
Yeah. They're just going buck wild, guys. They're going absolutely buck wild. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap us up here.
Yes. Well,
If
thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Do you wanna sit through it? Do you wanna go? I'm gonna leave it
Whatever
up
you
to
want.
you. Okay, cool
All
beans.
right. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you, chat, for all
Thank
this
you for
wonderful
being with us.
information. Yes. And I will see you soon.
We
Wink,
love
wink.
your guts, Beatrice. Thank you
All right.
again for
I love your
coming.
things.
Love
Thank you.
you. Bye, hun.
Bye.
So, y'all, over the next couple weeks, what's coming up is the following. If any of you know who Jay Megan is, she is a TikTok hoss. She has, oh gosh, she's a big true crime voice on TikTok. She has something like 280,000 followers on TikTok. She's going to be coming up. She's done a lot of research on the Apple health data of Jennifer McCabe, who lied through her tooth on the stand. So we're going to go over her findings hopefully tomorrow. We're trying to nail out a good time. So come back tomorrow for Megan. She is awesome. If you guys don't know who she is, you'll really enjoy getting to know her. And then again, over the next few weeks, we're gonna go over in further detail the Just en Route files. And also coming up, we will be doing another duck roast. Who's it going to be? It's going to be Lieutenant Gallagher, who thought that it would be a good idea to take the solo cups and the Stop and Shop bags from Tom Kelleher on January 29th. So we'll be, and the leaf blower too. Yeah, that was him. So we're going to ask how the duck, did he still have his job? He is retired now. Sometime coming up in the next couple weeks. So, Sherry, we are working out an exact time. I'm thinking like late afternoon, early evening, but I will post it on X, Twitter, whatever. And I'll create a stream tonight. I'm going to get this figured out like literally after I get off the stream. So yeah, be looking out for that, because she is going to rock y'all's socks off. Okay, we're going to go buck wild for her. We love her. And yeah, so make sure you come back for all that shit. We're going to have so much fun roasting Tom Kelleher. We're going to have so much fun going over the Just en Route files. It's going to be a big fat party. You're all going to love it. If you'd like to support the channel, this channel does have bills. On the scrolling banner below, there are means and methods in which to do that. This is still an itty bitty baby channel. So please like and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, you can do that there. Also, if you're feeling extra generous, please go to the Karen Reed Defense Fund page and donate a little bit in Nurse Kim's honor for her birthday, either $3.90 as she has asked, or if you're feeling extra festive, give a whole $39 for Nurse Kim's 39th birthday. So guys, thank you so much for being here. Muchos love to all of you guys, and I will see you late afternoonish tomorrow. Peace, love, and butt dials. Bye, y'all.